Done by Noon podcast. Today we're talking with Dr. Ellen Wong, and she will be talking about high functioning anxiety.
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
This episode is brought to you by the Ethic Planner, the first planner made for the entrepreneurial brain. It's easy to fill your day with busy work. You feel like you're getting a lot done. But if you don't make time for bigger projects, you're just spinning your wheels and hurting your business. The Ethic Planner is backed by a complete system to strategically plan your next 90 days. Break down projects into actionable bite-sized pieces. Optimize your work week and implement sustainable performance habits in the process. To learn more about the Ethic Planner, go to www.ethic.co. That's EFFIC.co. And use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Now, back to Dave and Chris.
Dave and Chris and Dr. Ellen Wong, who's muted actually. Ellen, you need to unmute yourself manually. Sorry, not used to Zencaster. Here she is. Boom.
This would have been a fun podcast if I recorded the whole thing muted.
I know. Well, we'll do what we have now. I know that's fine. Good to have you here, Ellen, with us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. This is exciting. I haven't chatted with you in a long time, actually.
I know it's quite. We talk to each other on Instagram, on DM, and one thing that people need to know about you. No, I'm not going to bring the second fun fact about you, but the first fun fact is that you are actually the reason why the Ethic certified coaching program exists. Because I remember when we met and you're like, how can I teach that to my clients and my people? And it's like, what about would a certification be useful? She's like, yes, definitely, I'm in. And you were the first one to enroll into our certified coach program, and it's all there because of you. So I'm happy that you're here because you're actually secretly a big part of pretty much what we're doing at Ethic now with this certification. So thank you for that. And you're an OG with Ethic. You've been using our systems for a long time now, right?
Mm-hmm. It's actually it's the one planner that I have stuck to for a very long time, and I call myself a planner hoarder because I used to hoard planners and have so many versions, and I've tried so many of them. I found Ethic and fell in love with it. It actually helped me manage all the different roles that I have, and cheated on Ethic for a while because I was completely convinced that I have this thing where I'm just like, I've used this thing for long enough. I'm going to go try something else. I went to a bunch of different other ones and then came back to Ethic because it really is the one that works. And, it actually brings me so much joy to know that I helped spark this training thing. And I have to say that I definitely was not the first one to complete it since I got pregnant, right in the middle of doing the certification. And it's not easy to be pregnant and go through all the symptoms and try to learn something new and then go through being a new mom and learning something new. So anyways, it took a little bit of time to go through your training, which I actually really loved, by the way. I talked so much about it that my husband has been peering over my shoulder and trying to learn a little bit about what's going on from this Ethic thing. But yeah, I remember Ethic was such a big part of how it helped me organize my life that when I did meet you for the first time at a conference, I remember coming up to you and telling you that you this, I don't know, fangirl. It's like, Dave, you're the reason that I managed to run my business and do all the things that I need to do. I'm sure it was really awkward.
I remembered you because your name, because you were actually one of the really, really first, I would say, consumer user outside of the circles that we were training who was actually religiously ordering. And remember your name coming back when you were ordering the planners. And when you came to me there, it was like, hey, it's Ellen from Toronto. It's like, are you Ellen Wong? The Ellen Wong, the OG customer from Toronto. And yeah, that's how we met. And yeah, it's and now so you've moved. So just to talk about what you're doing now, you're an ND, you're a naturopathic doctor. You move towards more like coaching now. What is it that you're doing exactly now with your clients?
It's actually a combination of both. I still bring in my naturopathic doctor hat into what I do, but I work almost exclusively now with women with high functioning anxiety, and part of working with them is to bring in the naturopathic side, which is a lot of the healthy kind of lifestyle side to it, and we talk about negative self-talk a lot. So that's where the coaching side comes in, because it's a huge driver of the high functioning anxiety. And then I also use methodology from EFIC to help these women organize what they're doing, because women with high functioning anxiety are exactly that. They're high functioning. They always push to do more and be more, and that always inevitably leads down the path of burning out. And I know that's like a huge passion for you as well. So using the methodology that I learned in the EFIC and the Done by Noon and all that to help women truly understand the meaning of productivity and how it's not about pushing yourself to burning out and doing so much and running these 80-hour weeks. And I think the uniqueness to what I'm doing is that, like, the training with EFIC is great. Like, I teach them a lot of these systems. They also have that negative self-talk of, if I'm not producing so much, then there's a lack of self-worth and a lack of self-confidence. And they take a lot of they've always been rewarded for being high functioning. So if they're worried if you take that away from them, what are they going to become, and who are they going to become, and how are other people seeing them? So that's how everything kind of ties in together. The naturopathic side, the self-talk, and the coaching side, and then the productivity side all get brought into one framework, if you will.
I love it, and I'm a fanboy of your work. But can you explain your can you why are you laughing, Chris?
It's just the fanboy and fangirl thing.
I'm an Ellen Wong fanboy. but can you explain to our audience what is high functioning anxiety, and what are the symptoms? Like, how do you know if you have high functioning anxiety?
Mm-hmm. So your typical person with high functioning anxiety is your type A successful overachiever who on the outside is put together. They're calm, they're confident, they're successful. They are the people that everybody goes to get something done, but inside they're struggling. There's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of what ifs, a lot of difficulty saying no, people pleasing. They're often mentally exhausted because their mind doesn't shut off. A lot of feeling not good enough, feeling like other people are doing better. And they continue to keep pushing through these feelings and their mental chatter, and they keep going because they don't know how to stop it and they don't know how to cut the cycle. The really interesting thing that differentiates high functioning anxiety and what might be typically considered generalized anxiety is the fact that no matter which questionnaire you use to medically diagnose someone with anxiety, there's always one question in some way, shape, or form that asks if the symptoms you're experiencing interferes with your day-to-day function. Now, in medical fields, rightly or wrongly, the way to define function is, can you work, and are you able and understanding what it means to seek care, medical care. And I think this is why people with high functioning anxiety don't fit that definition and that circle. It's because they don't have what is termed functional impairment. They don't have an impairment in how they function. They are high functioning. So they have all the signs and symptoms, a lot of them, of anxiety. So, difficulty sleeping, trouble with digesting their food, and having a difficult time relaxing and not being able to be present. Like, they have a lot of those feelings. They may even have the high heart rate and the sweating and all of that kind of stuff, but they push through. So they don't have what is typically defined as a functional impairment. So they don't then therefore get diagnosed as anxiety, or even if they are, it's almost like anxiety with a question mark, and then they don't know where to seek help. They don't necessarily want to take pharmaceuticals, because oftentimes there is this conception that if you take something that deals with the anxiety, then you slow down. And
You
these
lose
women
the
are,
edge.
sorry?
You lose the edge.
Yeah, and exactly. And so these women are scared to lose that edge, because that edge has actually given them so much success. And so they're worried. They're like, well, I can't slow down, because if I slow down, then I can't think as quickly. So if I can't think as quickly, I can't do my job. Or they even get worried, like, well, if I go to a counselor and I let go of this perfectionism, what's going to happen to the quality of my work? Am I going to suddenly become sloppy and lazy? And they have all these kind of preconceptions about what it means, because they've only learned how to function one way. And so if you take that away from them, suddenly there's a fear of, well, will I continue being a high achieving successful person, right? So I think that answers your question. Like, that's in a nutshell. Like, there's this part where the anxiety has helped them, and that anxiety is driven by a lot of their negative self-talk.
Where do you think the negative self-talk comes from? Is it something that they bring from, childhood, or is it part of just the way a type A person would think, or how does that someone like become actually a high, functioning anxious people?
Mm-hmm. I think it's both. I think there's this is actually a really huge conversation, but if you think about it, I think there's a lot of things that we're taught as children, and I'm going to get a little stereotypical with this conversation, because I know it's not 100% true, but oftentimes women are shown from a young age that they're meant to be more nurturing, they're supposed to be caring, they're supposed to take care of their family, they're supposed to be the one that deals with all of the quote unquote household stuff. But then at the same time, we are also in a society where we tell women, you also want to have a career. You also want to be successful outside of the home. And suddenly you are doing all of these things. But from a young age, you were also shown, and actually to say, like, to do all of these things, you also need to take care of yourself. Like, that's a great, huge component of this, right? And you were probably shown at a really young age mixed signals about how it's important for you in your nurturing role to put everybody else first and to put yourself last, which is, you can't tell somebody with high functioning anxiety to do self-care. They know logically self-care is important, but they have a fundamental negative belief about themselves that if they take care of themselves before they take care of everything else around them, then there's something wrong with them and they're not supposed to do that. And I think so part of it is nurture, what we are shown as children, what we are told as children, what we see from society as we're growing up. But there's also a big component of this that I've been really studying, which is called emotional epigenetics. So epigenetics is the passing on of traits from generation to generation. And we know that physical traits can be passed on from generation to generation through changes and modifications in how our genes are expressed. Emotional epigenetics is actually the study then of how emotional traits get passed on from generation to generation. And we can see evidence of this in a very extreme example. If, our grandparents went through an extremely stressful time like war or famine or anything like that, there is often a kind of inherited belief of not believing in abundance, not believing that there's enough for everyone. And that is now we can see that it's actually kind of embedded in the way our genes are passed on from generation to generation, and all it takes is a trigger, whatever that trigger may be, and suddenly it's flipped on, and your feeling of lack of abundance or that there's not enough and you must therefore do more can play out in so many areas of your life.
I agree. Like epigenetics, and it's being studied more and more now too with Aboriginal communities too here in Canada, where the damage that was done with residential schools and everything else. Like we try to rationalize it with different things, but it is true. I feel like there's some generational trauma that is being passed around that is beyond just the facts. It is just being passed on. So how do you go knowing that epigenetics like is a thing, it's a fact? How do you go about breaking the cycle? Like what are, let's say, the path that we can follow as a society to stop that or to overcome that or to change a course of action?
Mm-hmm. Again, really, really big, deep question. I think we have to stop. I think we have to stop telling people that their negative self-talk or the story they tell themselves is their fault. And I say this because I don't necessarily think anybody's walking around pointing fingers and being like, that thing that you just said to yourself, that limiting belief is your fault. I don't think no one's actually saying that. But when you say things like, oh, you need to say affirmations, it'll make it go away. I don't think that's a fair thing to say to someone. I don't think you can, if you firmly get passed on this belief that you are not good enough because you're marginalized, because of the whole way society has been set up and all the things that we still need to repair, you can't put a sticky note in a mirror and yell at yourself enough to believe that you are worthy. Like that doesn't happen, right? And so I think, things like, oh, you just need to do self-care. That's actually one of my pet peeves when people are just like, oh, just go do. I'm like, what does that mean? Just go do self-care. Like bubble baths aren't solving problems. Spa days aren't solving problems. They're nice. They're nice to have. And I'm not saying there isn't some level of, oh, I need to take a break. I need to, remove myself from the social media, and I just got to like go sit in the bathtub for a bit and give myself 20 minutes. I think that's important. But if as a society we don't create a sense of value in terms of work-life boundaries, in terms of prioritizing taking care of yourself as a way of giving to others in your family, if we don't have that kind of system set up, I don't think it's fair to just put it on one person. I would give you an example, actually. You may have heard me talking about this, and you and I talked about another podcast before that we've both been on. But one of my things that I love doing is traveling to places that are considered happy in the world. Like I like to visit countries that rank.
So yeah, you've been talking about it, your trip to Bhutan, right?
Yeah, my Bhutan trip. And so Bhutan has something called the Gross National Happiness Index, right? And so this is an index that it's not like somebody just decided like it was a good idea. Like they've really actually hired experts from around the world to inform them what truly makes someone as well as a society happy. And they've hired statisticians to make sure that this is an actually statistically valid questionnaire that they run through their population every 2 years. And one of their values in terms of what truly makes someone happy is how much control they have over their time. And it's not lip service, they genuinely embody this as a society. So when we went to visit, they've really, Bhutan just opened up to the world not that long ago, so they don't have like a public transportation infrastructure. So when you go, you are with a guide and a driver the entire trip, because somebody actually has to drive you around. There's no taxis, there's no Uber, like that's not a thing. There's no subways, right? And so you have a driver drive you around. And when we went, we got this little info sheet because they want to preserve their culture and how they think about things, that you get this little info sheet that kind of explains to you what their culture is like. And there's a section in there that says, your guide and your driver are assigned to you your entire trip. However, if your guide or driver needs to do something that they feel is important to them, they will ask someone to sub in for you and take care of you that afternoon. And so I thought that was really interesting. And I actually had this sheet with me. I asked my guide and the driver, I was like, what does that actually mean? And he's like, well, it just means that if there's something that's really important to me, then I tell my coworkers and they step in, and we have this understanding that we step in for each other whenever we have something that is important to us. And an example he gave me is like, oh, I actually, like, my daughter has a birthday party. It's her birthday. And so during this trip, we're going to step aside for an afternoon because I want to go home and help my wife prepare for her birthday party. And that was completely okay. It really made me think about what if I were in a situation where I had to explain to my manager that I had a birthday party for my child that I had to take an afternoon off for, what that difference is going to look like. Now, as an entrepreneur, sure, you may have complete flexibility, but a lot of people who are in jobs and in salary positions who are employees may not have that flexibility. And for the entire country to just accept this as that's important. Your control over your use of time is an important factor to your happiness. And that's why we support this. And I love that. Like, I love that they didn't pay a lip service. They genuinely embodied this, and they set up a system in place that supports this. And that's a really long answer to what you had originally asked, which was like, how do we change this from a societal perspective? But I really think that we do need to take a step back and look at how our systems are set up and what does it mean? Like,
That's why I ask you, because I feel like there's a bigger philosophical, questioning or debate that needs to happen, regarding the way we are managing ourselves, especially North Americans, into the way we see things, into the way we approach happiness in general, approach success as well, and it's always been a message at Ethic is that, you define your own success. Like, you do not compare yourself or your ambitions to other people's ambitions. What happens is complete extreme alignment with what you want, and be unapologetic about it. And also, I love what Bhutan does is that it enforces self-leadership. It enforces that prioritize yourself, be happy, do what makes you happy, but prioritize things that are important for you, but also allow others, and it's ingrained in the culture that others will back you up. I feel the problem that we have as North Americans is that when you do that, you're either selfish or you're lazy or you're not willing to work hard and you're not contributing, and then you're being mobbed because of this or that. I mean, I feel like, there's obviously it's a cultural thing. Bhutan is not a rich country by any means, and for us to make that shift as a society, as a, let's say, first world society might be tough, but can we integrate some of these concepts and bring that to, the North American life? And how can we do that? So how can we plant the seeds now so that in, let's say, 2 generations from now, the seeds are now grown trees, and, we have our grandkids have a better playing field. You know what I mean? Because there's a shift right now happening. North America will not be the leading, part of the world in the next, 20, 30 years. And things will need to change. It's going to be hard for a lot of people.
I think our jobs as coaches, I think we, like, what the three of us do is, like, we're able to interact with people and teach them certain things and how to do that. So I think a lot of it can really start. I think a lot of it has to start locally. It's going to be a long time before governments and leadership, like, at a higher level, really starts to accept that type of thing, because I think a lot of it is driven by business, and I think a lot of it is driven by money. So the three of us being in the positions that we are and the people that we work with have a really big job, I think, to be able to instill that into our clients and have our clients be able to instill that into their families, and being able to do that. I'm completely fascinated by everything that you've said. That's why I'm I'm kind of quiet and I'm taking notes like crazy. So it's really interesting.
I love that you brought that up because it made me think about how do we think our companies and organizations will shift if all the heads of these organizations had like a life coach.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think yes, a lot of them have executive coaches, and I think there's a part to that that's very important because leadership and how you lead directly affects the organization in ways that are more important than simply the profit that we bring in. And like I wonder, I mean, there's a stat about, I don't know if this is still true, but I remember reading a stat about how most people leave workplaces because of the direct manager that they are reporting to, and we spend so much time at work, and our happiness actually is extremely related to whether we feel fulfilled in where we work. And more we are starting to see the shift in people applying for jobs where their values align with the organization that they are involved with, and feeling fulfilled. And I just kind of wonder, like, if every kind of organizational leadership person in a leadership role had to get some life coaching above and
I
beyond executive coaching.
But I think, and there's multiple points like I think we can raise from that. I love that this conversation because I think I'm seeing a few things right now that already like no, we're applying, but I can see like is being applied by other companies. As you said, Bhutan, they value how they use their time so that they are in control of their time. And if there's one thing we can take from them, it's probably that. So bring it to a corporate environment. What's the one thing that you could do to your employees right now that will increase their happiness and more than likely their performance is actually to be in total full control of their time, right? So I think bringing entrepreneurship more into companies, giving more power or not flex. I don't like the word flexibility, but more decision power to your employees. Make them do their own schedule. Make them like you don't need to tell them when to work or how to work. They will do it in their own ways, in the way that is the most appropriate for them. This is how you will unlock their best performance, in my opinion. And then having the structure or the support structure to allow that to happen. So there's, I really love. I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I love he not the influencer per se, but his work behind the scenes at VaynerMedia and VaynerX. And I'm a big fan of Claude Silver. So Claude Silver is his chief heart officer, and she's the architect of the I would say the cultural aspect of his company. And Gary says that she's number two in the company. Like there's him as the CEO, and then there's his chief heart officer responsible for the culture. And her role is to actually have put I would say not life coaching, but you know how it is. Like, she does life coaching, HR, career planning, everything that has to do with making her employees perform and be happy, and they embody that in that bit, and it makes it a very attractive company to work for, right?
I bet.
So go ahead, Ellen.
No, I just said I bet. Like I think everything you're saying is it makes so much sense, and I think I get why you would say like flexibility isn't always the best word, and I don't know if this is the replacement word, but I think there's a part of it in there that has to do with also respect. You hired the person because you think they can do their job. So if they come back and tell you they don't have enough time to do what you have expected them to do, respect that person for coming to you and saying that, and respect the fact that you obviously thought highly of them enough to bring them into your company. So respect the fact that they came to you and asked for help. It shouldn't be like, I'm afraid to come to you and tell you that I didn't have enough time to do something because somehow it means I'm not working enough. You should trust me and know that I'm here to do my job and I'm dedicated to my job. So if I'm coming to you and being like, I am now working way too many hours to accomplish this thing you've asked me to accomplish, respect that. Respect that I'm coming to you from a place of truth. And sure, there's going to be potentially people who break that trust. I think that's a conversation to be had when it happens. And I think if we offer that trust to people and we offer that environment, that safe environment, people naturally want to shine. People naturally want to do their work, right? And I think it's interesting you said that they have a chief heart officer, because again, back to Bhutan, they have they still have a monarchy, but it's just like, so they have a monarchy, but they have like a right and left hand side to this, and there's they have a political leader who makes political decisions about economy and growth and all that kind of stuff. But then he also has another leader, and that person is their spiritual leader. Now, they're still a very heavily Buddhist country, but the point of this spiritual leader is to make sure that they don't sacrifice the elements of happiness and their culture and expand because of growth. They don't want to sacrifice their happiness for economic growth, and that's important to them. So I see the parallel in what you just said in terms of having that person there that kind of takes care of the culture in an organization, balancing that, because ultimately taking care of that is also going to be good for the business. There is no way, if you build a good culture, your business will not succeed. I can't see that. And so why not? Like, why are we not, embodying this more in everything that we do? And I'm sure you've seen this in many organizations who say they want to change the culture, but they haven't taken the steps to.
They do. That's the thing. They do, but they don't know how to go about it. There's a lot of companies who do it because they think like that's the thing to do, but they don't have an actual, it's going to make them look good, but they don't actually have a plan to really implement it. I think we're there now where in the global converse, especially in the North American or the Western societies conversation, is how do we effectively implement that at scale in companies? How can we take that and implement that at scale, and not just because it's good to care about mental health or anything like that. I feel we need to open up the conversation to something greater. The problem is that like the system seems to be painfully slow to just adapt to the reality, and is always 5 steps behind on everything. You saw that when a well-being program in companies used to be a free pass at the gym, and that was it. We're going to give you a free pass. That's our health program. Well, and now people realize that mental health is a real thing, and that doesn't need to be just addressed in times of crisis. That is just like working out. You need to work out your brain. It needs to be taken care of. And now we realize also that emotional health is important, because people want to be freaking happy. They want to be freaking happy. They want to work. Like, I think there's that false assumption that, people are lazy, that you have to whip them to do something. I believe that the right person who is in the wrong seat, who understands their role and embraces that role, will thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by giving them that I'm going to say flexibility, but that ownership. I think the word is ownership, taking ownership of your time, taking ownership of your tasks and your workload, and pretty much what we help entrepreneurs do. But I feel like companies could actually take that and get inspired by what we're doing with entrepreneurs to just bring that to give more power, I would say, to their employees. When you do that, I mean, you will get performant people. You will get the performance that you want, and probably way more than you think, or way more than you want, that you first expected from your employees, and you're going to have great retention. Why people do change jobs? You said that. It's because of a bad person, a bad superior who pretty much who doesn't buy into what they do. The time where you were just trading time for money is done now. Now you're trading time. So pretty much you buy someone's value, but what you need to do at employer level is to buy into their values. And if you have common values between the employer and the employee, this is how I think magic happens. Not easy to do when you have
leadership. You need leadership that has second order thinking. because in the end, that's exactly what's going to happen. Your profits are going to go up. I think the problem is that a lot of leadership, and they're aging out now that people are starting to retire, that old head mentality that, we have to maximize for profits. We have to maximize for profits. But people don't realize that the actual asset in most businesses are the people. And so if you have that second order thinking and you focus on the happiness of your employees and, for lack of a better term, your subordinates, I mean, that in turn will cause you to have higher profits because they'll be more productive. They'll be happier.
And it goes more dedicated to their job.
Exactly. Yeah. They'll be more satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably like how we will probably like look into high functioning anxiety and be like, okay, well, you can be, but high functioning anxiety comes from the expectations that you have and your image. Do you feel like that? You feel like preserving the image of performance is a big factor into high functioning anxiety, because you said like it's showing as, hey, I'm on top of my game, I'm on top of my shit, I'm composed, but inside they're like they fight kind of to keep up, right? Do you feel like it's because they're trying to stick to an image or stereotype of what it is to be successful, what it is to be performant?
I think so. I think we still have an extremely pervasive community, societal view of what success is supposed to look like. Success is supposed to look like hustling. Success is supposed to look like you're working your 80 hours a week, or else you're somehow lazy, or somehow worse yet, you got lucky and that's how you ended up where you are with the success that you have. And I think it plays into the, like, I only worked 60 hours and that person worked 80 hours and therefore I'm not enough. You're not enough based on the number of hours of work you put in. You're enough if you have done a good job, if you delivered on the thing you wanted to deliver, whatever that goal ends up being, personal or professional, right? Like, we have all these, like, it's not enough that I lost 10 pounds, I need to lose 15. Like, there's all these like things in there about not enough. And I think I lost track of your original question. What was your question?
I don't even remember. Chris,
I feel like I just went on a tangent in my own brain.
I'm taking notes, Dave. Don't ask me what the question was.
So what were we talking about? Something about the having to project. I mean, if as a society we didn't tell people that in order for, like, success is about hustling, then maybe we wouldn't tell ourselves we don't deserve success unless we hustle. Like, that's right. Like, we have all these like ideas. I, again, like, work with women who are either, whether they're employees or they're entrepreneurs. There's this thing where it's like, I don't want to feel like I'm lazy. Like, these people work a crazy amount of hours, do tons of things professionally and personally, and then they're like, I'm lazy. I'm like, you're lazy because you took a Sunday off? Like, wait, why do you say that? And it's because they perceive what other people must be constantly doing, or they're actually taught. Like, how many of us were taught when we were younger that in order to succeed, you have to work hard? I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard, but, like, what's working hard? Working hard doesn't have to be working 80 hours a week and sacrificing your health. Working hard doesn't have to be 80 hours a week and sacrificing your happiness. Like, where do we lose that thing where you can have both and be both, right? Like, and so, yeah, I think we have to maintain this image of what we must be doing, therefore are succeeding. And I cringe every time somebody tells me that to succeed, you have to hustle. Like, you have to work hard, efficiently, effectively towards the thing you want to do. Yes. That does not mean burn yourself to the ground. 100%. That does not mean sacrifice everything at the expense of this goal. For what exactly? So you can check off another checkbox that you've reached this goal. Like, that's not what life is about, right? Like, it's not what this is about. And I think we need to change our dialogue around that.
That's why I always talk, and I talk about it in the Done by Noon book, about the concept of working right. I think working hard is a given. I think, like, if you want to perform, if you want to be a high performer, obviously nothing comes like by just cruising. You don't see an athlete having success by, like, not giving everything that they can on the field, for example, on the
Mm-hmm.
field of play. So yes, it's a given. Working smart as well. It's like people are, oh, you don't need to work hard, you need to work smart. Well, obviously you're going to need to work. It's dumb to not work smart. You know what I mean? So yes, you will need to be more. This is why you become more efficient in the process. But the key is to work hard. You don't work hard for the sake of working hard. You work hard because you know that it is aligned with exactly what you want. It is right. It's appropriate for your goals.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that when you don't have that on a personal level and you just obey, if you want, other people's success. If let's say you work in a company and that's a company success that you are pushing, you're not aligned.
Mm-hmm.
You're not aligned with your own vision of success.
Mm-hmm.
Your success could come by being an employee, comes with being an employee of this company, but that doesn't mean that you need to be aligned with their goals. Like, be aligned. We make sure that your work provides for, this company's goals, but that you are aligned with what you truly want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs have obviously a lot more, I would say it's more open for them to do that. But I believe there's a way, like, we can do it, on a corporate level.
But
Do
one of the
you?
things that you actually just said, sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead. No, yeah,
Well, I
no
was going to
problem.
say, work hard. You said it, work hard towards the things that matter to you. And I think that's the key. You've got to figure out and define what matters to you. And then, work hard on those things. Like, work hard at the right things. Don't work hard at everything and all the things that people tell you you're supposed to work hard at, right? Like, you've got to define what success means for you. And again, like, I have people who are almost apologetic. They're like, well, I did the exercise, I thought about what was success, and I realized that it's like, I don't actually want this thing that I'm supposed to want. I'm like, great. You're ultimately going to be so much happier if you actually know that the goal you're working so hard and, like, putting in so much effort in is something that you actually want. Like, what does it truly mean for yourself? And I think this is where the self-development and the self-growth and the self-discovery comes in to it. Like, work hard, but, like, do it for the right things and for what's going to make you ultimately feel successful and happy, not what somebody else told you is going to make you successful and happy.
I agree. Do you feel that women put twice the pressure on their shoulders compared to men in that environment?
Mm-hmm. I do. And again, there's so many reasons for why this might be, but I'm going to give you this example just popped into my mind because I had this conversation recently with someone. The concept of a power suit. I think it embodies so much of what we think success is supposed to look like. Like, we have an image of what success might look like, especially in the corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there's a way you're supposed to, like, dress for that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was pregnant, obviously there's a lot of, like, there's maternity clothing because you literally cannot fit into your own clothes because you're growing a human. And I remember getting an email from a maternity clothing company, and the sale was on power suit for, like, the pregnant woman. And I just looked at that and I was like, I'm feeling pretty crappy right now. I'm nauseous. My back hurts. I'm carrying a lot more weight than I've never carried before. I feel so crappy. Why do I have to wear a power suit to appear that I am somehow continually performing at some level and fit this image that people think I'm supposed to fit if I'm successful and continuing to keep up with whatever it is I was like, no, like, you're lucky I'm wearing sweatpants and running shoes to come to work because that's all I felt comfortable wearing. But why isn't that okay? Like, am I not professional? Am I not still helping patients or clients if I show up in, I don't know, something that doesn't fit your definition of what a power suit's supposed to look like? And I think it's a small example, but it does highlight what we seem to think women are supposed to be somehow. You are growing a human. Without women getting pregnant, we would have literally been extinct. So for the 9 months, let her wear what she wants to wear. Really? Like what? It baffled me, and I just refused. No, no. I'm wearing leggings and I'm wearing running shoes, and if you have a problem with that, you can take it up with I don't know who, but I'm not changing, right? And it's like these little things. Like why? Like why aren't we more lenient and understanding and compassionate about things like
I
this? So yeah,
know.
I
Like
totally think there's this double
without
standard.
having to, we shouldn't have as a society to go to reach a point where we need to expose publicly this type of shit. Like, for example, like an employee, like the employee should know that. Like, you know what I mean? There needs to be that level of emotional intelligence now that needs to be developed 360 everywhere, because like we're at a place now where the default, modus operandi to change things is just to massively expose, one thing and make it a big fucking deal, where they can just be made by small little changes, one by one. Need to become better leaders.
Mhm.
Leaders need to understand this stuff. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? This should not be, it should just be a given. We're at a time now where leaders should look into what's right and not what the culture says it should do. Like, I agree with you 102,000% on that, on the clothing things. But that, and because Chris and I had that conversation about, the cancel culture and, the people being offended and everything. And I feel like things could be avoided if we gradually, on the human self level, lead
Mhm.
the example of not just do that for show, do that because you give a shit, do
Mhm.
that
I mean,
because
this
it's the
is
right
this
thing
is
to
a
do.
buzzword, but we need empathetic leaders. We need people with empathy, people who have the ability to put the shoe on the other foot and know what other people are going through in order. Like these are the types of people that we need to lead companies. And as
Mhm.
quote unquote soft or unpowerful and like somebody that's empathetic may be, I mean, that's exactly what you need to be able to get the best out of the people that are working for you, who in turn are going to give you the profit line that you want,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Look at all the women-led countries right
well,
now, and
yeah, that's a
how
perfect
much
example.
you're right.
Exactly.
Like New Zealand being the first country right now that with the giving women
I'm a huge
benefits and
Jacinda fan. Huge
yeah,
Jacinda fan.
like
Oh
being
man,
giving people
love her.
paid leave because they have miscarriages. Like I'm like that again. Like what? It shouldn't have taken this long to even get there. But I am so
Yeah.
glad that somebody took that stance, right?
But
To
only a woman can do that. That's the thing.
That's true.
but
That's the thing.
why?
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 I know. I 100% why. But the thing is, this change because women understand the pain that it is to miscarry a child. You know what I mean? I've been through with my wife. We've been through 3 miscarriages. I don't know a fraction of the pain that my wife endured, even though I was with her, you know, the whole time. I'm not inside, her head, her body. I process the loss of that unborn child very differently than she would. And for men, like a woman needs to, like women need to, like, I would say that's a perfect timing to do that because they will understand the pain and they don't want other women to feel that pain.
Mm-hmm.
A man doesn't understand. The dude doesn't understand, and that sucks, and I'm saying that because I if that was me, I would pass that bill anytime. But I mean, the women need to bring that over and make people understand that it's a big fucking deal. A miscarriage is a big fucking deal.
Yeah, it took women leadership to make that understood by men in
Mhm.
general. I think, and so yeah, no, I think that's amazing. I had no idea that New Zealand passed that.
Well, New Zealand is doing so many things right. I'm just a big fan of her leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
Everything she's doing, the way she communicates, like I don't know. This. We need more eyes towards what's happening in New Zealand right now, and a lot of countries are doing that now. You see, great country like I'm a big fan of what they're doing in Iceland, like economically, like from an entrepreneurship standpoint, but also human standpoint. And same thing to female-led country. I love it. I mean, there's another greater conversation to have about that, but I feel the more we do that, the more we do small things that matter, the more we're going to see, great changes, right?
You should quote that. Do the small things that matter.
Well, well, I think someone probably said it before.
That's okay. We don't know who it is. It's okay.
Let's Google it. Google it. But it is. I feel like we don't need to do like things with absolute, that it needs to be big fucking deals. I think like we need to lead with small things that matter for us without having to look for outside praise to validate that what we're doing is respectable or noble.
But then what are we going to put on Instagram, Dave?
I put my sleep score on Instagram.
Yeah, and, Dave, what are we going to point to on those reels?
I know, I couldn't find the word reels. I know. I love that.
No, but all things aside, there's that big kind of shift right now in social media, Instagram and otherwise, about that kind of authentic part of it, of showing up as yourself and sharing all the sides to what you're doing in your life and what all that means and how that plays, and not every day of a productivity expert's life is productive, and that's okay. Like, we don't have to set up this massive standard for people to live up to, because I think, again, it makes other people feel not good enough. I'm not saying you have to like I don't want it to sound like, oh, now I have to like not post good things or wins because I'm worried about how other people feel. Like, that's not really where I'm going with this, but I do think that there is this shift in terms of like showing up authentically at all sides, as everywhere in our life.
And the best way to show authentically is to stop saying you're fucking authentic.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. I just had. Oh my goodness.
Those restaurants.
I had a conversation with.
Right now, Chris, are you being triggered?
I had a conversation with a guy who talked about authentic transparency. And I was like, that's redundant. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, how can you be inauthentically transparent? Like, it's just such.
Those takeout restaurants that say like authentic whatever culture cuisine takeout. That's not going to be the place you need to go eat, because it's not. Exactly. If they need to advertise that they're authentic whatever food, it's not for you.
The real deal. Yeah, that's why the hole in the walls are always like the best kept secrets, and people like nobody wants to tell. But yeah, and I do believe like there might be a shift towards authenticity, but how much authenticity there is out there, I'm not sure. It's still but I mean, as humans, we're geared towards showing our best stuff, and I think now we need to start maybe embracing or acknowledging like vulnerability.
But that's what it means. I don't actually think being authentic on social media means I have to take a picture showing you that my bed isn't made and there's clothes everywhere. I mean, you could if that's part of what you want to share, but like, that's not really what authentic necessarily means either, right? I think that is part of it. It is sharing the vulnerabilities and sharing the tough days, and sharing not for the sake of trying to be authentic. You know what I mean? Like, there's like that filter and that lens, right? Like, ooh, this is a really good example for me to take a mess and show it because it makes me authentic. Like, that's not the right thing. It's just,
I got the perfect marketing plan for you.
That's exactly it. Like, people are going to use that for their own benefits. That's the thing. Like, they're going to use that as like, that's the part that I hate about like the cancel culture right now, is that, and I see white people doing like all the things to make them look right, but do they really give a shit? That's the thing. You know what I mean? They have that social vigilante mindset, but is it really because you actually care?
Yeah.
Or is it because you are actually, doing the right thing? I got, well, you guys are Canadian. You know Gord Downey, the singer, the Tragically Hip. That's authenticity. It showed like he used the last month of life to bring awareness to a cause that he would believe in. And it was like, that's my legacy message. at this point, you're dying. You have a brain tumor. You're dying. You don't know when you're going to die.
Mm.
Like that's, for me, like that was a huge lesson on how to approach things. Like do it like the thing that you need to care about is not because of yourself or what you get out of it. Is approach it like, I'm going to die tomorrow. What's really important for me to share? What would I share? And you would say things pretty different than you would if you would not approach it, right? And I think that's how you see authenticity.
Agreed.
And if you approach it that way, you're probably going to be.
Agreed.
Yeah. Look into what Gord did. People look Gord Downey and the work he did, the Downey Wen Jack Foundation, and for Native people and the reconciliation and everything. It inspired me beyond belief. I actually have his photo drawing of him in my office. Is huge inspiration. But I love this conversation. I love that we talked, like we went broad with. I think we discussed, I guess, the causes of maybe why people, especially the women you work with, have high functioning anxiety. But there's a deeper conversation to have as society. Do the small thing. What was that quote again? Do
the small things that matter.
Yeah, do the small things that matter. Don't do it for fame. I think that's good. That's a quotable right there. Love it. Ellen, thanks so much. Always, appreciate you. Appreciate your how smart you are and how bright and devoted to the good cause that you are. Thanks for being, an OG at Ethic and doing what you do. How and where can people find out more about your very important and inspiring work, and how to reach you?
Best way is Instagram. I'm definitely on there a lot, being my authentic self. No, I'm just because I needed to throw that in there. No, in all fairness, I say I try. There's a lot of growth and self work in what it means to show up genuinely, authentically. Now I'm just using words, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, find me on Instagram at The Joy Avenue, and yeah, my work there is all about doing my best to share value to the people that do have high functioning anxiety or struggle with the negative self-talk. And my mission has always been to help women prioritize their health and happiness as much as their success. And it fuels me to do that, because I really do think that you can have all of those three things. You just need to kind of, one, get out of your own way, but also be given the right tools and a safe community to support that kind of growth and development.
I love it, Ellen. I hope you're going to be back on the Done by Noon podcast in the future. I always love talking with you about all these things. Enjoyed my conversation with you today, and I will talk to you soon. I will talk with your authentic self on Instagram very soon.
Transparently authentic.
Oh,
authentically transparent. Sorry.
There you go, man.
And woke. Don't forget woke. Gotta be woke.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But if you're woke, aren't you transparent automatically? You're authentically transparent automatically.
Oh my gosh.
Consciously you are.
Yeah, you care about people.
You got to be consciously woke and authentically transparent.
Oh my god.
And be able to hold space, lots of space.
This is spiraling in all the wrong directions.
It's a good time to say goodbye, my friends. Have a great week.
Thanks for having
Ellen,
me.
it was a pleasure meeting you.
Take care.
Bye.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.